Today we're going to take a night train to get to the city of Da Nang, where a good friend of mine is waiting for me. He has been living there for about 1 or 2 years and says it's a very beautiful, very peaceful place with a beach and lots of digital nomads. So I got curious to go and see what life is like in Da Nang. Compared to China, especially in a coastal city, since we live in the city of Shenzhen, which is also on the coast. And so far Vietnam has been wonderful, except that yesterday my wallet was stolen. I don't know how it happened. I was walking through the alleys downtown in a hallway that was really crowded, and I was wearing shorts with very shallow pockets. So it must have been really easy to take the wallet, and I never should have put it there in the first place. But the biggest problem is that my card was in there, so from now on I can't withdraw any money. In fact, yesterday I had to manage by exchanging money with some Chinese people. That's the only way I can get money for now. And fortunately, I had kept some money in my backpack just in case of emergency. And that's what I'm surviving on, but I hope that when I get to Da Nang, my friend can help me exchange money. And that's the reason why I'm shortening my stay in Hanoi. Originally, I planned to stay for 2 or 3 days, but now that I don't have my wallet, I have to rush out to see how I can manage. But that's what happens when you travel, especially backpacking solo. You have to be prepared for all kinds of situations, and I'm sure I'll be able to manage. This city changes completely from day to night. At night, it's chaotic. There are too many people, even in this part of the lake, because it gets filled with little tables and chairs. And street vendors come with all kinds of food and drinks. It's quieter now, so you can walk peacefully. And here you can really see the French influence in this city. Just look at the buildings surrounding the lake. They were probably all built during the colonial era. And France really developed this city during the 100 years it occupied this country. But what surprises me is that there wasn't much influence on the language. Actually, French was never a local language, but you can see its influence in the food and in the coffee culture. Throughout the city, there are many coffee shops, and the coffee is said to be excellent. In fact, I understand that there's a special coffee bean that has to be digested first by opossums, and then it's cleaned and consumed. Honestly, I don't know how they do it. It may sound odd, but it's basically opossum poop coffee, and they claim it's great. But I don't even like coffee in the first place, so I don't think we're gonna try it this time. I just heard a tour guide tell the story of this islet in the middle of the lake. And it's really interesting because the legend says that when Vietnam had to defend itself from China, a giant magical turtle emerged from this lake to give a sword to the then ruler of Vietnam, with which he was finally able to defeat the Chinese Empire and make his country independent. When this happened, the turtle came out of the lake again to reclaim the sword and return it to the gods. And that's why its name is the Turtle Tower, and it's one of the most iconic symbols of this country. And another thing I heard from the tour guide is that the reason there are so many Vietnamese flags everywhere is precisely because of the history of occupation and invasions that this country has experienced. As I mentioned yesterday, since its origins, this is a country that has had to fight for its freedom in almost every stage of its development. From the Chinese Empire to the French, Japanese, Americans, they even had some disputes with Cambodia. For them, hanging their flag is like a way of saying, this is our country, no one is going to take it from us. They are very proud of having achieved independence, and with good reason. That's why I think it's a nice gesture. Honestly, it slipped my mind, maybe because I'm used to it. China is very similar. But look at the number of flags everywhere. On every corner, at every traffic light, and in every store, there are an incredible number of flags. Interestingly, they display not just the Vietnam flag, but also the communist flag. I noticed it at the border and assumed it was to signal we were in Vietnamese territory, but actually it's due to past invasions and long occupation. I'm arriving at Hanoi station. I think this is it, but it's very different from train stations in China. There's not much going on, and I'm not sure if this is where you buy tickets. This seems to be the ticket office, but it's closed. No one is here. Excuse me, do you know where to buy tickets?
Outside.
Outside? So not here. It's odd that you can't buy tickets at the station and have to go next door instead. It might be here. There's a train sign, but I don't know its meaning. Do you know where to buy train tickets? No? Okay, thank you. How do you buy this? I saw a website but didn't understand it.
Go ahead to the right.
Okay, to the right. Here on the right? Thanks. Looks like it's around the corner. Let's check. Obviously, this is no longer a tourist area. Here there are regular businesses now, but there are still a lot of cafes everywhere, and some of these cafes even look like bars. As I mentioned yesterday, it's clear about the buildings. The wider the front of the building was, the more taxes they had to pay. And that's why the buildings are very small, but with a lot of depth. What would be one building in China? Here it's almost 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like 6 different buildings.
Notice they all have a business downstairs, usually the family business. I think you enter here.
Excuse me, is this the ticket office? To the left. I can't imagine how people traveled before the internet. Now that I'm outside the city center, no one understands me in Chinese, English, or Spanish. Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. I kept speaking English to him, but for him it might as well have been Martian since he didn't understand anything I said. There we go. It took me half a day to find it, hoping I hadn't missed the train, but let's hope there's still one left. I imagine it will leave late because it's supposed to be a night train that goes to Da Nang and takes about 14 hours. A flight is most convenient, only an hour and very cheap. Still, for the experience, I'd like to buy tickets to Da Nang. Here are the different types of trains. They look great. This is second class and seated, but it's a long trip. Honestly, it's not bad or expensive. Here's my ticket, and it cost me $45 for a soft bed with air conditioning. And the funniest thing is that when he saw me recording, he said, "Wouldn't you prefer a room for yourself? We can reserve a room just for you so you can go alone and record comfortably." I said, "Oh, that's cool." I thought he was giving it to me for free, but then he told me the truth. That one would cost you $190, which isn't expensive compared to the train in China. Especially since you'd have the entire room to yourself on a 14-hour train. But we're on a tight budget, especially now that my wallet was stolen. It's becoming a big problem because I lost $1.5 million dong here out of the 3 million I had left. I can book hotels on my phone and will pay for everything online whenever possible. As for money, I have to save as much as possible. I'll have to eat air. Another thing I've seen a lot is houses with forks that are stacked one on top of the other. For example, that one is about 5 stories tall because its concrete base allows their houses to grow. I guess it's a cheap way to add floors to your house. Apparently there are several streets like the one we were on yesterday. It's the most popular, but there's also this other one where they cover the roads with house doors so you can walk without any problem. But the train goes through both of them. The question is, what time does the train pass by? And according to what the guys outside told me, the ones offering to take you to another street, they're owners of cafes like these. And yes, they'll take you, but obviously they want you to buy something from them. I think it's definitely worth visiting both streets. They're both very beautiful, and in a way they're also different. Here the buildings are taller, and I see there aren't any terrace bars like the ones we saw in the other part of the city. For now, let's look for a place to sit and have a coffee because our train isn't until 7. I still have 2 hours left. This is truly a unique setting because now I'm walking on the train tracks. And on the sides there are shops, hair salons, little stores, and restaurants. And on the other side there's a river of motorcycles, taxis, and people waiting for the bus. Look, this is a line to wait for public transportation. I get the impression that there aren't many rules here in Vietnam, but on the contrary, many rules just aren't written down and the locals know them perfectly.
Because somehow all this chaos works.
And the perfect reflection of this is that you see people crossing the streets in the middle of chaos and absolutely nothing happens to them. In fact, a while ago I was at a crosswalk. I waited for the right moment to cross but didn't dare. And suddenly a man came up to me and said, "Here you have to go, you have to just go for it. You have to go carefully, signaling to the cars and motorcycles and they'll avoid you. But if you keep waiting for the perfect moment or for there to be no cars, you'll never cross." But this is also a very big country, so it could be a completely different situation when we get to Da Nang. I'm really impressed to think that there are people who live here. This is their balcony. There are the windows, probably the living room of their house where they sit to watch television. And about 3 or 4 times a day they hear the train pass by. At least those who live on the famous street have benefited a lot because it has brought them business. And look what I found here. This guy sells fish. He's selling me goldfish, blackfish, Japanese fish. I thought I'd seen everything in China, but this is new. I wonder how much a fish costs and how you'd carry it on your motorcycle in all that chaos. Imagine this motorcycle with its little fish trying to navigate through this beautiful chaos that is Vietnam. Things that don't make much sense, but you see them around here. It's this intersection, and how are people supposed to cross? Well, they jump over, they climb the fence, and that's how they get home from the park. So as they say in China, which means when in Rome, do as the Romans do. There's no other way. We're going to have to cross through Viva Mexico. Yes, we did it. We really did. Not even Mexico City prepared me for this much. I have to say that since I arrived in Vietnam, I felt extremely safe. And that's even though I've been going into every alleyway imaginable. And some of them are pretty dark, like this one. And they're not necessarily tourist areas. I've also visited other Southeast Asian countries, and I have to say it's not the same. Because when we went to the Philippines, there were some alleys we went into and we were warned not to walk around with our phones in our hands or to avoid recording in dark alleys. But here it's been the complete opposite. Whoever you ask tells you there's no problem. Here you can walk around and no one will bother you. But if you go into a crowded area, what happened to me could happen to you. They might take your wallet. But at least there's no violent robbery if you visit Vietnam. Something you can't miss are the famous banh mi, which are a legacy from the French colonial era because it's no secret that the French love baguettes. The locals adapted it into something like Mexican bolillos, which are softer. Honestly, I really like them. Bread in France is crunchier and a bit harder. These feel more like maybe slightly old bolillos, but somehow that gives them a really good flavor and a really good texture. And also, they adapted it to their tastes, because the French wouldn't put all the things they have here. And they even add refried beans, mayonnaise, spicy sauce. Let's say they like flavors more like we Mexicans do. The only problem is that I never know what to order because I don't understand anything it says here. Do you have beef? No beef? Cow meat, moo? No? It's going to be tough. He doesn't understand me and I don't know how to say beef in the local language. But these are the good places because where they don't speak English and don't have translations, that's where the locals eat. I'll go with the banh mi nem lui. Luckily, artificial intelligence already translated banh mi nem lui for me. It's a sandwich where they put pork inside the baguette. They then add classic pickled vegetables, cucumber, cilantro, fresh herbs, and chili to taste. And this is served with a peanut or fish sauce. I hope it's not fish. I really liked it here because they actually toasted it. In other places where I've had it, they just give you the bread as is. That's why I said it feels like old bread, but toasting it changes everything. I wish I could share with you the delicious aroma of this little sandwich. It's interesting. The spicy sauce they use is more like Tabasco, not as hot as the Mexican version. They don't add sliced peppers, they don't add little chilies, but let's see how it tastes. They're excellent. I also find it interesting that they add cucumber. It's strange to me that a baguette or a sandwich has cucumber, but in a way it works because it makes it crunchy, so it's better. We're back at Hanoi Station, and now I see why there are two buildings. It's because in 1902 the French built Vietnam's railway network, but during the war with the United States, around the 70s the original station was completely destroyed and they had to rebuild it. That's why today, the station is a rather strange mix of French colonial architecture with the new version of the station, which is now Ga Hanoi. Given all the difficulties the country has faced, I find their achievements impressive, because this is just kilometer zero of a railway network that connects the entire country under the name of the Reunification Railway. That was when the North connected with the South after the victory over the United States. I love it because it's a beautiful, simple, and easy way to travel across the country from north to south. Welcome to Hanoi train station. The trains are very different from those in China. These are obviously a bit older, and here they don't have bullet trains. In fact, the train in Vietnam reaches an average speed of 50 kilometers per hour, which is much slower. In China, slow trains travel at 100-150 km/h, while bullet trains reach 350 km/h. Theoretically, it can reach that speed, but they're usually about 300. Lemon Express. Hey, it feels so premium, right? I have to say, the trains in China don't give you that feeling like you're entering a luxury hotel. On the other hand, this one gives you a really nice welcome. And overall, the train is very well decorated. We're here. Do you know if I can choose whichever bed I want?
Yes, it's this one.
This one, thank you very much. Well, welcome to the train where we're going to spend the next 14 hours. It's pretty nice. I got the top bunk since none were available on the bottom. Being tall, I often hit my head on the ceiling. I have to say this compartment is much more spacious than those on Chinese trains. These mattresses are real mattresses. The ones they have in China in the economy class are almost like a board. They give you a Coke, water, a lamp, and even some snacks. Are they free?
I think so.
Probably yes. I'm going to eat my delicious pie here. Let's see how it is. If this isn't the most luxurious class, I'm curious to see which one is. Let's check out the other cars. Western style bathroom, nicely decorated with very important toilet paper. They have a small hose to clean your backside, as many people in Asia use water instead of toilet paper. In India, I understand people clean themselves with water in their hand, which is why they eat only with their right hand, or is it the left? They eat with the right hand. Some cabins have just 2 beds, but I wasn't offered one. That would have been nice. I just moved to the lower class. And supposedly the difference is that the mattresses are a bit harder and it's not as spacious. I'm realizing I made a mistake because they're all empty. And the thing is, most of the people on this train are foreigners. They all chose the very important person, so to speak. So if I had chosen lower class, I'd have the whole room to myself. Throughout the whole train, there are very beautiful paintings. For example, I think this is the turtle islet I mentioned to you earlier. You can already notice a bigger change here, but the cabins are still empty. Is it English? Do you speak English? The last car is practically a nightclub. They sell alcohol, wine, and beer with club lights. Check out everything for sale, including bottles of vodka.
They clearly thought of everything. It's not a bullet train, but it's the most impressive train I've seen while traveling.
I'm really sorry, China. This train stole my heart. It's crazy. There it is, the famous train street, with bars and people lined up waiting for us to pass. They can't see us, so it would be funny to wave if they could. Without a doubt, this was one of the worst nights of my life, but I have to say it was absolutely worth it. The train views are breathtaking. You can see the whole jungle of Vietnam on one side, and on the other you have the view of the ocean, which is very beautiful. Especially now that we're getting closer to the paradise of Da Nang. The only problem is that the beds are too small for me. And while the mattress is quite comfortable, the train moves a lot. And as it is, I always have a hard time falling asleep. Also, the train makes stops during the early morning. People get on and off, which wakes you up anyway. Even so, it's totally worth it. But for sure, I'm going to need a shower because the problem with spending a night on a train is that there are no showers here. It's not like you can wash your armpits in front of everyone and you can't shave either. I just recommend that you make sure to get one of the lower beds. Anyway, see you in Da Nang. We've arrived in Da Nang, thank God, finally. Since I got the top bunk, I couldn't stand up, I couldn't fully get up, so my back was killing me. And I'm really happy that we've arrived. And look, it's strange. There's no bridge or safe way to cross. You have to use the train tracks. However you can manage. Out here, there are a lot of people offering you taxi service or Grab, which is like the official Uber of Vietnam. But my friend told me it's better to order it through the app. Rates from those people often change a lot and they might take advantage of you, so it's better. And look, this is the #1 transportation system in Vietnam. There are motorcycles everywhere. And I imagine these are the new ones or the ones they're going to send somewhere else by train. Welcome to Da Nang Station. I assume the word Ga means station because Hanoi Station said Ga Hanoi and this one says Ga Da Nang. And if I'm not mistaken, in French the word for station is gare, like G-A-R-E. So it might come from French influence because remember, before the French, Vietnam didn't have a railway system. The hotel is about an hour away, so I'll walk there. With this sunshine, I probably won't go out. I just need a shower and a nap. It's interesting how they cover their bikes. I guess it's so the seat doesn't get too hot when they come back for them, or maybe because they left them here, took a train and went on long trips. But this is the motorcycle parking lot. I haven't seen a car lot, but motorcycles are the main transportation in Vietnam. Well, I see that I'm not that far. I'm about an hour away from my hotel, and there are a lot of trees along the sidewalks. Maybe I can walk there. It'll give me a chance to stretch my legs. But one thing's for sure, the traffic is maybe as crazy as in Hanoi. Just look at the number of motorcycles and cars. They make walking pretty difficult because the sidewalks are a bit like in Mexico. There are a ton of obstacles everywhere. And you kind of have to be jumping around like it's a video game, and always being careful with the motorcycles passing by on the sides. In this place, you really need street smarts. I'm surprised that this is a school, but it's open. Anyone can just walk in. For example, I just walked in and no one said anything, which actually reflects well on security in Vietnam. That means they don't kidnap children here. Hello, hello, hello. At least where I used to live, many schools have a carousel system where they check your identification and the car goes in. When they give you the child, you must show a badge or similar identification. But we're nearly in the classroom already and no one said anything to us. I'm struck that in Vietnam, bao tzu, which are very popular in China and a breakfast staple there, are also widely eaten. Here they've adapted it locally. See, this one's called ban bao sha shu and uses pork. They're quite big. And they also have things you don't see in China, like this one, which has rice and a quail egg. Let's try it and see if it's different from those in China. May I have a ban bao sha shu pork bun, please? Thank you. Well, here is the Vietnamese hot dog. It's like a corn dog. It's like they took a donut and put a sausage inside. It's not like corn dog batter. This one's sweeter, just not coated in sugar like a Krispy Kreme. It's good, it works. I give this Vietnamese hot dog a 10 out of 10. This bao tzu is huge. It's red inside. It's like a kind of sweet hash. It's like they tried to make bolognese with ketchup instead of tomato sauce. And also, I think it has a bit of rice. It's okay, but not my favorite. I'm surprised people are bundled up in sweatshirts and jackets despite the heat to avoid sunburn. And I'm not sure about that. But it might have to do with beauty standards, since in China the whiter your skin is, the more attractive you are. This seems like it's the Coppel of Vietnam. It catches my attention because in Mexico there are famous stores like Coppel and Electra, and this one is very similar. And in fact, they sell all kinds of appliances, phones, tablets, and smartwatches with small payments. I can imagine. 7,850,000, I have no idea what that is. Here is the very famous Samsung S24 Ultra, which costs 22,800,000. Suddenly, Vietnam gives me a much more communist vibe than China. In this country, you really do see a lot of images like the classic propaganda from movies, and the communist symbol is everywhere. As I mentioned to you yesterday, Vietnam is a country that has suffered occupations by multiple countries throughout its history. And today, one way to reaffirm their identity as Vietnamese and as an independent country is by having their flag everywhere. Da Nang is turning out to be an extremely walkable city. It's very beautiful, and even though it has a lot of traffic, it definitely doesn't come close to the density of Hanoi's traffic. Visiting this city is highly recommended for its rich history. And the thing is, Da Nang wasn't always a modern city with bright bridges and endless beaches like the ones you can see today. Instead, over 1,000 years ago, this was the heart of the Champa Kingdom, where Arab, Chinese, and Japanese ships brought spices and silk. Later, in 1958, this was the very place where the French and the Spanish landed. This marked the beginning of the colonization period of this country, which lasted about 100 years under French control. And as if that weren't enough, later on, this same city became one of the largest United States military bases during the Vietnam War. Because it is located right in the middle of the country, which was where the battle was being fought between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. In short, you could say that Da Nang has seen it all, and today it's a mix of abandoned military bases, Buddhist temples, and ancient ruins that make it a wonderful place. And I also understand that there are many expatriates or many foreign immigrants who decide to come here to live a relaxed life. Many of them, like my friend, are digital nomads who decide to come and spend 1 or 2 years because life is quite affordable. It's a very safe place and also very beautiful. I don't know how much you can see from here, but that bridge you see with yellow arches way in the back, it's not just any bridge, it's the Dragon Bridge, which was inaugurated in 2013 to celebrate the anniversary of the liberation of Da Nang. And the most impressive thing isn't that it's 666 meters long, but that every night that yellow wavy dragon spits out a flame that can reach up to 20 meters and then a jet of water that reaches 15 meters high. This show happens during the weekends, especially at night. I think it's at 9 post meridium. Today is Thursday, so we'll likely see it tomorrow. The heat is already brutal. I'm ordering a motorcycle on Grab for 17,000 dongs. Let's see how long it takes to arrive. To take a Grab, I have to take a selfie for the driver's safety or enter my card information. I should take the selfie now since my Grab is almost here, but how do we know who it is? That's it. We finally arrived at the apartment. Let's check out the room. It doesn't look like much. It's on the 2nd floor. It's supposed to be one of the most expensive ones here. Well, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's literally a small apartment for 123 yuan. It's not bad at all. But as for a sea view, there's nothing, even though it's called Sea View Apartments. I've showered, changed, and we're more rested. While my friend is busy, let's take a walk around the city. And what's the best way to do it? In this case, we rented an electric motorcycle for 150,000 dong per day, which is very cheap. I paid about $15 for 3 days, and it's electric. They'll recharge the battery if it runs out, so there's no issue. Now we're arriving at one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, and one of the top 10 most beautiful beaches in Asia. But don't be fooled by its beauty, because this beach has a lot of history. And during the 60s, this beach was used as a rest area for the American troops who at that time were invading Vietnam. In fact, many locals still remember seeing the soldiers surfing, building sandcastles, and carrying out their training. For what would become one of the most catastrophic wars in history, and also the only defeat of the American army. But how was it possible that they could use this beach for rest during such a violent war? They wonder. Well, it turns out that the Viet Cong couldn't afford the luxury of attacking the American army in open fields, because the Americans far surpassed them in technology and weaponry. Therefore, they used a system of guerrilla warfare, traps and ambushes, which depended a lot on the geographic location within the jungle, since they could hide better there. In open fields, they would have been easy prey for the Americans, who had tanks, amphibious vehicles, ships with bombers, and more. And therefore, this was a safe area where the Americans could relax. And like this one known as Mike Beach or China Beach back then, nicknamed by the Americans, there are many other historic beaches in Da Nang. For example, Red Beach, which is where the American army landed for the first time in 1865.
The day when more than 3,500 troops arrived on the beaches of Vietnam.
But interestingly, they didn't encounter any resistance from the Viet Cong, quite the opposite. They received curious looks from people who wondered if the Americans were just passing through, if they had come to help them, or to attack them. Imagine what it must have been like to see an entire American fleet approaching with giant ships, amphibious vehicles. It must have been something tremendously intimidating for the locals, because most of them weren't soldiers. In fact, legend has it that there were many locals who were happy with the arrival of the Americans and went to welcome them as if they were saviors, when the truth is they were coming to crush them. But what can I say? And while this is a beautiful beach, at the time it became a place of great tragedy. In fact, in the 1980s, this beach was commemorated with a series known as China Beach. And you can look it up on the internet if you want to learn more about those times. I just came across a Christian church here in the middle of the city of Da Nang, and I wanted to get out and explore it because it was precisely this city where the first Christian missionaries arrived from Spain and Portugal in 1858. And because of its location on the central coast of the country, this has been the place where many ideas and new things have arrived in this country. And when I entered the church, I realized that here they have a very particular way of praying, which is like a song. Although I am religious, I'm not 100% practicing, and the truth is that I don't go to Mass. So I don't know if any of you have seen a similar prayer. Maybe they were praying the rosary, but they do it kind of like a song, which in a way feels like they're praying in a Buddhist temple. But that's not the case. We're in a Christian church, and I'm amazed by the power of Christianity. Keep in mind that Christianity only arrived here in the 16th century when it was brought by the Portuguese and the Spanish.
But it spread widely across the country still.
Only about 7 to 8% of the population in this country is Christian, and the rest is a mix of Buddhism, ancestor worship, Taoism, and even Confucianism. And that's why you see temples where elements from different religions are mixed together. That's beautiful. Why not take the best from each religion so you don't have to argue?
But what do you think? Now we're arriving at the biggest shopping mall in the city of Da Nang.
For a shopping mall in China, it would actually be quite small. Welcome to the biggest shopping mall in Da Nang. It's quite nice. It's just 2 floors, that's all. Oh wait, it's 3 floors. I found the fashion interesting since it's the same clothing sold at the supermarket. And look, these dresses are in the color of the Vietnamese flag, featuring the star from the flag or the communist star. And here there are different dresses that in a way might look a bit like Chinese kipaos, but this is local clothing. And then there's the hat, which is the classic hat typical in all images of Vietnam, and many people confuse that hat with a hat that's exclusively Chinese. But it's actually more representative of Vietnam, while in China it's mainly linked to the rural south. They're the farmers who grow rice, and the material the hat is made of can also vary a lot. They don't make it the same way in China as in Vietnam, but in general that hat is very typical of Vietnamese clothing. In every way. In China, however, I'll repeat, it's mainly for southern farmers. This is a very photogenic city. Especially when you're crossing the bridge. It's very beautiful because it's a dragon bridge. Driving through the alleys, you find details like this, like the dragon bridge, the steel bridge that's back there. It also has a much more relaxed lifestyle than Hanoi. There is traffic here and there are a lot of motorcycles, but you don't feel the chaos and confinement that you can experience in the historic area of Hanoi. Here, people come to fish, people come to exercise. You'll find many places where you can do yoga, gyms, and meditation. Overall, it has a much more relaxed vibe.
And that's why it doesn't surprise me that so many foreigners come here to vacation or spend time. And it's incredible how many Russians there are.
In fact, my friend told me that he has about 20 Russian neighbors. Most of the foreigners are either Korean, Japanese, or Russian. I also have to say that, against all odds, we came at the perfect time. Because in all the guides you find on the internet, they recommend that you don't travel during September, which is usually the rainy season in Southeast Asia, and that it's best to come in December or in January, when the weather is mild and it's not monsoon season. But you've probably already noticed that in all the days I've been in Vietnam, it's only rained on us twice. It was only for a short time, and luckily one time we were on the train. Here, you're going to see how to cross a street on a motorcycle when there's no traffic light, which is often. Here, there's no way they're going to let us pass, so you have to edge forward on the motorcycle carefully.
Be careful not to get run over. See how the cars just go for it.
Notice how it works. Everyone gets through without issues. What's interesting about riding a motorcycle in Vietnam is you can stop and leave your motorcycle anywhere there's space. And that's how it is. Some people even park them behind others and leave them unlocked or without blocking them so they can be moved. But I've noticed that sometimes they park in places that really get in the way. For example, my motorcycle, the yellow one, isn't in the best spot. But my friend told me that here there's no problem, that actually any place is a parking spot. Just don't leave the key in the ignition or it could be stolen. Now we're arriving at the local market. It's an area that's both touristy and local because people come here to do their shopping. And well, I want to see what we find. In a way, it feels like being in a little Mexican market. Until you see the words written in English and Vietnamese, then you realize it. But actually, many of the products are similar, like coffee, chocolate, and the smell is quite similar too. For example, the classic figurines can always be found everywhere. The bracelets, the fans. Maybe something that changes a bit are the Asian products like the Lucky Cat, but I think you can even find those too. They even have labubas. Don't look at the small wicker Starbucks bag. If this market is called Han Market, it's not because it has anything to do with the Han dynasty of China, but because in Vietnamese the word Han means natural port. It's also the name of the river that runs through the middle of Da Nang City, which is exactly where the Dragon Bridge crosses. I need to get some flip-flops, and the market's second floor, which is all flip-flops, is the perfect place. And they have everything from Crocs to Hello Kitty sandals, so we'll find something here. And I'm not joking. This whole aisle is dedicated to sneakers and shoes. And they have everything from Air Force One replicas to the new On sneakers, which are trendy these days and are everywhere. If you see me later in On sneakers, they're from Han Market in Vietnam. This trip is going pretty well. I got a Patagonia fanny pack for $5, super cheap. I don't think I could have found it this cheap in China, even though that brand is often counterfeited there. Everywhere, in every shopping mall, you can find Patagonia products. So, if you see people who go to China and come back with Patagonia t-shirts, they definitely bought them at the counterfeit markets. Over here they have others with glitter. I'm almost recording this just so Noelia can see it because she loves dresses.
Hello, over here.
What do good quality ones cost?
We make all the products ourselves. 100 units for 1 million dong.
Alright, thank you very much. A custom-made dress, 1 million dong? I think that's about $50 approximately. I don't think it exceeds $50. But we didn't bargain at all. You have to keep in mind that when you bargain, the price drops a lot. And here it's customary to bargain because later in our videos, when we bargain, many people get offended, but it's the custom. It's what people do around here. Another thing I've seen that people buy a lot as a souvenir here are Grab t-shirts, and hoodies. It's interesting, like if in Mexico, tourists bought Uber t-shirts as souvenirs or Uber Eats or Rappi, but well, if you think about it, in Mexico we really like Dr. Simi. And it has become part of the local culture, so everyone has their own traditions. It's amazing that everything is in Korean. In this area, which is like the downtown of Da Nang, a lot of places serve you in Korean, and for good reason. Most of the tourists you meet are Korean or Russian, and you hear it everywhere. For example, all these guys here are exchanging money and they're Korean, and the same goes for the man behind me. And look, that's why the store signs have both Korean and... oh no, it's only Korean? So it must represent a large part of the income for the people of Da Nang. Maybe many vendors also speak Korean? Just like there are those who speak Chinese, it must be the same for Korean. Look, even the pharmacies have Korean letters. I wonder why it's specifically Korea since it's such a small country. Here we go again. To cross, you have to throw yourself out there. Look, these tourists already learned how to do it, but I didn't cross with them. Why did Max cross the street? To reach Bikini Bottom. It's a huge mess coming to see the dragon. And people park all along the bridge and there are so many people. In fact, finding a spot was almost impossible. I had to drive around for about half an hour, but in the end we made it. Despite the crowd, we got a front row spot. And it's supposed to shoot fire up to 15 or 20 meters. I don't remember exactly how much. I can feel the heat even from this distance. Although I'm not sure if it's a 20-meter flame because it's supposed to be a 20-meter flame. But it's impressive anyway. It looks really nice with the buildings in the background. But it was cool. And if you don't believe me, look at the number of people and phones that are here waiting for it to continue. I find it curious that they even close the street so people can take pictures on their motorcycles. They use them as seats. And this show goes on, then it's supposed to start shooting water and get the people over there wet.
Imagine they close the entire bridge every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 9 p.m.
It's one of the most important, and it likely causes even more traffic in an already congested city. Look, you can come and stand in the middle of the street and there's no problem, even here where the flame reaches because it goes upward. Now the problem is finding my motorcycle, because it was left parked among the hundreds and hundreds of motorcycles that were left standing in the middle of the bridge. But well, now you know. If you want to come see the dragon, you can get on the bridge before they close it and park anywhere. You could park a motorcycle here and no one would say anything.
There goes the water.
Look at how the people on that side ended up. That's crazy, that's insane. There it goes again, there it goes again. It shoots at us from all sides, so we must be careful. As soon as the show ends, everyone rushes out. It's chaos, so get off the bridge. They've opened it already. So, see you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed it. And in the next one, Nolia will be there.
Remember to subscribe and join us on our next adventure. See you then.